Brenden Nunes will be joining us here from the Kings Pulse Pod, also Kings Herald. Brenden, thanks for joining us, man. I always appreciate it. Last night, so I did the recap show on our YouTube channel, and I said, well, they played better than anticipated, and without Domas, it's a good effort, And then I woke up today, I said, yeah, but we're now past moral victories. 20-point lead. How do you feel about last night's game?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate the invite, and always glad to talk with you too. It is the best team in the West, right? It's hard to. I'm with you. I think we should be past moral victories, but at the same time, I think there is importance in acknowledging just how good this Denver Nuggets team is, and the Kings were without their best player, and it's not like they've been, or one of their best players, in Domantas Sabonis. I think he's kind of the hub of everything they do on offense, and a pretty important, underrated aspect of their defense as well. And it's not like they've been playing without Elmas for a little while now. This was the first game of getting used to not having him out there. So blowing the 20-point lead obviously doesn't feel great, but I thought that it was a solid performance, all things considered.
Moral victory. Brenden Nunes, he's in the moral victory camp. So Domas wasn't the only guy out last night, obviously. Mike Brown, safety and health and safety protocols. Your assessment of Jordy Fernandez's performance last night, Brenden?
Yeah, I thought Jordy did great. Jordy's very well liked and has done some head coaching stuff when it came to different G League teams, but obviously nothing like this outside of the ejection that Mike had in Toronto earlier this year. And it was just a cool day for him of everything coming together at once. His 40th birthday, it comes against his former team. And then gets to run it back tonight. Obviously, a team that he's going to be very familiar with. There's not that much change from last year. So I thought that Jordy did everything you could have asked for him. Kind of watching him pregame. There's so many people he's saying hi to because it's his former team. He still went through his typical pregame workout with Trey Lyles, when I think typically Mike would probably be doing a little bit of prep in the back or still getting mentally locked in. So I'm sure that it just kind of threw off everybody's routine, but I think that Jordy did everything that you could have asked for him, and everybody speaks glowingly of him. Mike, you saw Mike Malone speak glowingly of him as well, and talk about him as eventually a head coach in this league.
Brenden Nunes is with us here on Cattles and Rami. No Rami, just Cattles on this Wednesday. I thought Fox had kind of an up and down night. I know he finished with 26, Brenden, and he had some stretches where some baffling decisions. He only played 30 minutes. I know Sean Cunningham tweeted last night that he might have banged up his thumb. Were you surprised by him playing only 30 minutes given that Domas was out?
Yeah, I thought that we could have seen him a bit more, but I thought that some of the other guys were rolling a little bit. Like, I thought that Davion was playing well, and I think that those guys typically don't share the floor all too often. And I thought that you were still getting okay guard play. Kevin Huerter was having a solid performance. Malik Monk didn't score the ball amazingly, but I thought he still did an okay job of distributing, which isn't the most evident in his one assist, but they weren't hitting a great amount of shots. So I definitely would have liked to see Fox play a bit more, and am curious if that has anything to do with there being another game tonight, but also you look at the other end and you see Jokic playing 37, Jamal Murray playing 38. I think that it probably could have been helpful if Fox was out there a little bit longer, especially when the offense kind of seemed to be the shortcoming.
Brenden, what'd you think of the backup bigs and the way they played in Domas's absence?
I thought they were passable. I didn't think that they were killing them out there or anything. Like, I was a little surprised that they went away from the Alex Len, Rashawn Holmes, and kind of seemed to favor more of the total small ball lineup with Trey Lyles at the 5, or if you want to call Harrison Barnes at the 5. I was surprised they went away from Len because I thought that he was doing a good job, but their other options seemed to be doing everything that you could ask from them as well. This is back-to-back MVP, and pretty much it seemed like the second half he just decided that he was going to shoot more. And I don't think that it was a difference between who was guarding him. I think Jokic just had a different level of aggression in that second half. So I think that Len, Lyles, Holmes kind of did what you would want them to. I'd like to see more of Rashawn Holmes personally, and bringing it back to that Fox conversation, like with with no Domas and these other bigs, it's more traditional screens rather than dribble handoffs. And I think if you can get Rashawn Holmes and De'Aaron Fox back in their pick and roll, which is a comfort that they've grown throughout the last couple of years of playing together, then maybe you can get that duo rolling. But I thought the big situation with it just being tough, with obviously Domas usually playing 35, 36 minutes when he's out there, I didn't have any issues with it. I didn't think it led to their loss or anything like that.
Last one for you, Brenden. And again, thanks for the time, my man. HB and Keegan had 3 field goal attempts in the second half. Was that a result of Domas not being out there, making sure he's feeding certain guys and facilitating the offense?
I think it could have been. I will say this is also just a theme with these guys. I think specifically HB, it's hard to pin down Keegan at this point, right? Only about 30 games into his NBA career, but we've seen this with HB before. You know, he had 8 points in that first quarter, 13 points in by halftime, and then he doesn't score in the second half. And I thought he had a different fire to him in that first half too. So I do think that no Domas is definitely an aspect of it. I mean, to only have 20 assists, which is something they've only done now 5 times this year, and they've lost every single game with 20 or less assists. They've also gone now 0-7 in games where they make 10 or less triples. Like, I think that they got up a couple threes, but if Domas was out there, I'd imagine the ball movement is finding those guys a little bit more within the rhythm of the offense. But I also thought that they could have taken things into their own hands a little bit and been more aggressive.
Great stuff, Brenden, man. I appreciate you. Let's do it again soon.
Thanks, Nick. Let me know.
All right. There goes Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse Pod, also Kings Herald. Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. I am slightly disappointed in Brenden being on Team Moral Victory, though. That was disappointing. I did not think he'd be on Team Moral Victory, but he planted his flag.
But again, Nick, you come from outside of the King's Kingdom, and this is a person that grew up in the King's Kingdom. Again, half glass full, half glass empty.
Fair. I would say that's a fair assessment.